Hi guys, and welcome back to another quick reading vlog. Happy New Year. I really wanted to post my favorite reads of the year before this year is done. 2024 has included lots of good reading, and here are just a few of my favorites. So first up, I have always loved Practical Magic. It's been one of my favorite movies that I watch every single year, but I never read the book, and I feel like that was a crime. So this year I made it my mission to make sure that I read it. And I was not disappointed. The writing was beautiful. I just loved the whimsy, the magic, but it also had it also has depth, and it's, I don't know, it just feels very real. Like there's just so much heart in it, and I love the aspects of sisterhood and family. Practical Magic is written by Alice Hoffman, and it follows two sisters who are raised in a family of witches that have a curse on them, and they sort of have opposite reactions to how they let that curse affect their lives, and it follows them through love and loss and new beginnings, and it's a must read, definitely. Another book that I read this year was Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert. I'm not a big self-help girly, but I thoroughly enjoyed this book, and it came to me at a moment when I really needed it. My sister-in-law recommended it to me, and we read it together, and it was such a great perspective shift because as a creative person, somebody who's a musician, songwriter, and filmmaker, I'm constantly struggling with the battles of perfectionism and failure and just the gravity of this industry. And yeah, there's just a lot of failure, there's a lot of no's, and it can just be hard and heavy sometimes. And I feel like no matter what industry you're in, or just no matter who you are, I feel like this book could be so valuable. It's just very inspiring and thought-provoking, and it's more her perspective, her creative process, and her thoughts about her practice, and so it's just really eye-opening and helpful. Next, I love this book. I think this might have been like one of my favorite maybe fantasy reads. It's called Heartless Hunter by Kristen Ciccarelli, and oh my gosh, it's enemies to lovers, so just that always gets me. But it's like Regency era-esque and has strong characters. I felt like it was a good story. The plot was quick. There's romance. So the story follows Rune, who's a witch trying to save witches from getting captured by witch hunters, and Gideon, who is a witch hunter who is trying to figure out if Rune is the Crimson Moth, and who has been saving all these witches, and as you might guess, they fall for each other. So I feel like it sort of saved me from my reading slump this year, and for that reason I just have to recommend it. Another book I read this year, I actually read it with my book club, and it's called Greenwood by Michael Christie. It takes place in BC, and there's sort of multi-POVs, multi-timelines, but it follows the one Greenwood family, like from sort of the Depression to the future, like I think 2038, after this great withering happened, which is basically just like global warming and the effect it has on Earth. It's beautifully written. It's engaging. The storytelling is wonderful. I definitely recommend listening to the audiobook. I feel like it's narrated very well. I feel like it's so powerful of a story to think about how much your previous bloodline had to go through in order for you to be here today. And so for that reason, it's very inspiring and uplifting, and I definitely recommend that one if you haven't read it yet. Last up, I spent a good chunk of the year reading this series, so I obviously have to mention it, but I read Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas, and Empire of Storms was definitely my favorite book. It's sort of the climax of the whole series, and so everything comes together in this really beautiful way. Everything is sort of getting tied up with a bow a little bit, so we can have this happy ending. It just sort of relays the importance of being kind to people and just doing the right thing. When you're presented with options, just always choose to do the right thing. And there's just so many beautiful found family aspects. There's a little like romance in there that I love too. If you're not familiar with Throne of Glass, it follows Celaena Sardothien, who is an assassin who is trying to earn her freedom from a tyrannical king who has lots of secrets. And I feel like that's kind of all I want to tell you. If you've never heard anything about it, just read it. It's such a great YA fantasy series if you love fantasy. I'm guessing you've heard of it though, because everybody has heard of it, but I just love that one. And last but not least, this is my honorable mention. It's also like the only physical book I have with me right now, but it's Dance of Thieves. I'm only halfway through. It's written by Mary E. Pearson, and it is beautifully written. Like, I love the way she writes. It just feels like a real book. I'm not like struggling to get through it. It's very easy to follow, but I'm getting enough. I'm getting just the right amount of everything. There's romance, and then there's plot, there's world building. I feel very immersed, which is like what I want from my fantasy books. The characters are very realistic. They're still young, and like they're still kind of making silly decisions, but they also have skills that they've built up and are using, and we get multi-POVs, so we're in their head and we're seeing their thought process, and I love that. This follows Cassie, who's a Queen's Guard but is a former thief, and she is on her way to capture a criminal, but then gets captured herself and taken captive by what's his name? Jace. Oh my gosh, I'm doing such a bad job at this. Jace, who's the leader of an outlaw dynasty, and it's not really enemies to lovers because I feel like they actually fall for each other quite quickly, but they're not like together. Like, I'm halfway through and they're not together because there's complications and they both have jobs to do. I'm really enjoying it. I think this is going to be like another top read for me this year, and so I just thought I'd mention it. But anyway, that's all I have to say. This fast stack of books right here is my physical TBR that I'm going to try to get read in a different video. Thank you guys so much for supporting me and watching my videos. It means the world to me that I get to make videos and people watch them and care, and I love connecting with you on this platform. I wish you a very happy new year, and I hope to see you in a video soon.
It's unlimited, it's intrigue.